In this video, we're going to look at two words that are going to revolutionize your communication with other software engineers and team members. This is a concept that's actually used a lot in improv, and I just want to offer a full disclaimer. I am not good at improv at all, but I thought it was really interesting that it's a carryover from that. To illustrate this, let's actually walk through a really common scenario that we all go through as software developers, pushing up code to be reviewed by our peers. Now, if you're very junior, you might not have encountered this yet, but for people with more experience, this is actually unfortunately a pretty common thing that pops up. Okay, so the scenario is that you've been asked to work on a feature and you've been developing the code for it, running it on your own, and it's actually working. So if you have a service, you've tested out the service and it's doing what you expect, or if it's a user interface application, you've checked it out and you've gone through the workflows and it's all working exactly as you'd expect, and you push it up for review and your teammates go to look at it, and then the comments start rolling in and you start seeing the names, and it's the one person on your team, or maybe it's someone else on a different team, doesn't matter, but you start seeing the comments coming in going, nope, this doesn't work, change it, change this, change that, like get rid of this, and everything on there is completely dismissive of the things you put up. And you're sitting there reading these comments like, okay, but I'm running it and it works and it's doing the thing. How could it possibly be so bad that everything I put up is being totally dismissed and I'm being told everything's wrong? All right, so we're going to come back to this one, but I want to give you another example to walk through, and we're going to look at both of these and flip it around with just two words to improve all of it. Okay, so in this situation, let's imagine you're on an engineering team and your task is that you guys have to figure out a way to improve the performance of your service. So within your team, you're going around the group and kind of asking who's got ideas. So you put your hand up and you say, well, I think we should address the database query because I've been taking some measurements and I think they're going slower than we'd expect. I think there's too much latency. We might want to look at addressing the round trip time. So maybe we can put a cache in place or figure out some way to be doing fewer round trips so that we can be faster. And you're feeling pretty good about yourself because you've finally been able to speak up and kind of share some insights and some focus areas that you think are important. And right away, someone goes, no, but I think we should actually try to focus on the hot path that I've measured. And it's actually related to this loop that's running. And we should address that because this is actually the most important part. And that person is the senior engineer on the team. And of course, because they're more senior, people are looking to them for guidance, and they've totally shut you down. And now you're kind of feeling like, I don't want to speak up anymore because that felt pretty bad. So I've exaggerated these situations a little bit, but these types of things do come up where you're on code reviews and things are being dismissed or shut down, or even in idea sharing sessions where you're finally able to speak up. You kind of feel like, man, why did I bother doing that? Because I'm left feeling like really bad about me sharing my own ideas. Now, like I said, I'm going to transform just two words in these scenarios. We're going to go through them again, see if you can pick up on it, and then from there, we're going to dive into why this works so much better. Okay, so your code review goes up in the first example, right? You're all excited because you finally got the feature working. The comments start rolling in. You start seeing the names for who's sending it. You start holding your breath because you're nervous about what's about to happen. But you start reading the comments and you read, I see what you were trying to do in this particular situation. I like that you tried to address this algorithm this way. And I think that if you were to change this up a little bit, I do think that you'd be able to get the performance gains that I was concerned about, so that might help. Or it might be a matter of, hey, I see what you were trying to do with this feature here and how you were implementing it in this spot. And I think that if we were to try moving it over to here, it actually might be more scalable, so we won't run into some challenges that I'm foreseeing in the current design. In this case, it actually doesn't feel so bad because you're hearing, hey, look, this person actually sees what I'm trying to do. They acknowledge it's probably working, but they're sharing with you something to improve it and giving you some reasoning behind that. So a subtle change, if you haven't picked it up, we're going to analyze it a little bit deeper, but let's go to the second example and walk through that now with the same change. Right, so it's about trying to find an area to improve the performance in your service. And like I said, you're kind of feeling nervous about speaking up, but you put your hand up and you say, well, I think we should address the database queries and the round trip stuff that I was talking about before. And then the senior engineer speaks up and says, yes, and I think after we look at that, we should also consider this hot path that came up in my analysis, because I noticed that that was adding a lot of execution time that we weren't expecting. All right, so that second one might have been a little bit more obvious, but let's actually pick this apart and see what changed. All right, so let's cue up the drum roll, and the answer is two words, just like I said. You're changing no but to yes and. How simple is that, right? The entire idea here is that when you're saying no but, or even leaving out the but and just saying no and dismissing things, that you're actually completely shutting down people's ideas. And your intention might not be to do that if you're the one saying this, or if you're hearing this, that's probably not someone's intention to say, hey, everything you were just saying, zero value, shut it all down. That's likely not the case. But what they're probably trying to do is saying, this other thing I think is more important, more valuable, or more correct. The problem with that, though, is that when you completely dismiss someone's ideas, and this goes back to communication and why I think communication is such a fundamental skill to have as a software engineer, that when you shut down people's ideas like that, they are less likely to keep speaking up and sharing ideas. And sure, some people have thick skin, they don't really care, they're going to move on from it. But I do think that the more junior you are, the more likely it is that you're going to be like, oh man, that didn't feel good, and start to get trained out of speaking up more. And that's exactly what we don't want for more junior engineers. We actually want to be working in the exact opposite direction so that more junior engineers start gaining more confidence. And you, as a software engineer with more experience, you actually want to be trying to level up the people around you. This is going to help you progress and become more senior as a software engineer. And yeah, there are definitely software engineers that become more senior without doing this. And the reality is, they're not a lot of fun to work with because they keep shutting down your ideas. They're not very collaborative. And having people like that within a team can be detrimental because it feels like everything grinds to a halt because the more senior person is speaking up and they shut down all the ideas of the team, even if that's not their intention. When we change the framing to say yes and, what we're actually doing is acknowledging that someone had a good idea. This is more positive reinforcement. Even though it's a tiny little thing, it's going to help people feel like it was comfortable to be able to speak up. It was a safe place. And even if you offer criticism after that or disagree with it, right, you might say, yes, and I think this other thing is better, right? So you can still have a difference in opinion. You might still say, like, I think this is more important, but you're acknowledging that someone had good input. When you do this within a team, especially when brainstorming, you actually can get so much more momentum because instead of proposing ideas, shutting them down and going back to square one, you can actually propose ideas and other ideas and keep building on top of them, taking the pieces that seem to align and keep making progress that way. But when you say no, but, and then you completely replace it with something else, the person who offered up the idea, or even the other people observing that conversation, say it's on a design document or something, right? If they're reading through this and they're reading the comments on the document or your feedback, and they see no, but, and this other thing, they might have the impression that you're saying that thing should be completely omitted. It's not valuable, right? There's not enough context when you say no, but, and then you're just dropping off the one thing that you're dismissing. And to be completely honest, I didn't have any idea this had to do with improv until I went to go make this video. I wanted to see if other software engineers were talking about this kind of thing, and when I started searching for it, one of the first hits was actually that this is an improv tool. And here's the article I came across, so I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but I just wanted to point it out to you because I thought it was super neat that that was the case. So what I noticed here was they were saying, they give an example, right? So you end up getting this example here. So person A is saying, wow, it's so hot today. And then their improv partner says, what are you talking about? It's freezing. So partner B is stopping the scene from moving forward, right? So in improv, the whole idea is that you're kind of playing off of the other person or the other people in the group. So someone will say something, and because there's no script, the whole point is you need to keep the momentum going. So as soon as you have someone that's completely dismissing an idea, it puts a break in place where you're like, oh, oh crap, like I have to think of something new, some new trajectory to be able to jump in. So in this example, the wording, they didn't actually like literally say no but, right? Because they say, what are you talking about? It's freezing. There's no but in there. But what they're doing is actually putting an end to the train of thought from the first person and just saying something else. And actually, what this person goes on to say is, but like, what if the suggestion that that one scene partner made actually makes the first partner uncomfortable, right? And I want you to think about this back to the software engineering perspective. So if you're the person shutting down other people's ideas, you're not realizing it. You're just saying, no, but this other thing. The person that you just shut down completely, they might be left in a state where they're like, okay, like I thought there was some merit to what I was saying, but now it's just been completely dismissed. It's a really bad feeling. So it's a very interesting parallel. And then the rest of this article actually just talks about some like improv games that you can try doing. And you're actually practicing replacing situations where you're saying no, but with yes, and. And that way you can literally play around with like the phrasing and actually making it feel like it's more productive. Okay, but I don't want to just leave it at improv. I thought that was a really cool example because it's totally separate from software engineering, but it still is exactly the same type of idea going on because it's all about communication. And I'm going to pull up another article, and this one's actually from LinkedIn here. So, full disclaimer, I actually don't know who this individual is. They're a COO at some company, so that's interesting. But I thought it was really cool that in this article that this person wrote, they were actually saying that they tried this exercise where they went around a room and they got people to explicitly say no but and then go and like generate a new idea. So one person would go and say something and the next person would say no but and then continue on with something else. And they repeated the exact same thing, but instead of no but, you said yes and. And the result of that was really cool because people were saying that yes and actually felt a lot more creative. They can move faster and get more momentum. And the no but actually made it really hard for people to come up with ideas and move forward. So again, not necessarily a group of software engineers here, but it's a perfect parallel example to how this communication style can really have an effect on either stopping things on their tracks or making momentum for generating ideas. All right, so that's exactly how 2 words can revolutionize your communication as a software engineer. And if you were thinking about this in the sense of no but, and you were reading the title and you were looking at the thumbnail and you were feeling like, nope, like that's not what's going to revolutionize someone's software engineering communication, you might be a no butter. So you might have said no, but what would revolutionize someone's communication skills or level them up as a software engineer is actually doing more code reviews or building more projects, right? You're dismissing the idea and having something else in its place. If you were a yes ander, you could say something like, sure, 2 words could revolutionize someone's abilities as a software engineer. And I think something else that would really help is building more projects on the side, is participating in more code reviews. So you're adding additional things onto it. So just a little example tying it back to this video. So I hope you found that useful. I want to keep reinforcing with people that watch my content that yes, all the programming skills, super useful. We can keep building on the technical skills, right? So we could be looking at different architectural patterns, best practices, things like that, all tying back to actual engineering, coding, and software development. But the communication part and other human skills I feel like are often neglected, and so much of the time when we focus on the technical parts, these advanced really quickly and the other parts are kind of left in the dust. I do think that if you want to become more senior and a more effective software engineer, you really need to focus on these things and, right, not but yes, and you need to focus on your technical skills in addition. So I hope you found this useful. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.